Welcome to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Kim is a psychotherapist and executive director of ICU Talks, a mental health speaking ministry. This is a podcast about how to flip your lid and learning how to reconnect to who you really are.
All right, listeners, listen, I took my Ritalin this morning. That's how excited I am to talk to Lori Murray. She and I go way back. Sadly, I have to say way back because we have known each other since college. I've known her family since college. She is associated with the Alex Murdaugh trial. And more importantly, she's associated with my heart. And so she's an attorney in South Carolina. I love her. So Lori, welcome to Flip Your Lid.
Thank you for having me. I am so happy to be here. So happy to reconnect with you and see you in person. I know we touch on Facebook, but so happy to see you in person.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We both have had a wild journey since college.
Yes.
And I feel like people lost money on both of us because we actually turned out okay.
I think so. That's right.
Right. We're not on trial. So we're doing pretty darn well. So, so we're going to talk about the Alex Murdaugh trial. We're also just going to see where else this goes. We want to talk about the legality behind it, that South Carolina itself was on trial. We're going to talk about the psychology of it. We're going to talk about all the things. But I got to ask her the first question. Y'all know if you listen to this podcast, I got to ask this question. It's my famous question, which is, Lori, here's the deal. What flipped your lid and what measures have you had to take to reconnect to who you truly are?
Well, it's such a hard question, Kim.
I know. You're welcome.
Thanks. I think that, it's funny. I think people would say that TikTok probably flipped my lid, but what flipped my lid was when my daughter left for college.
Oh,
that
wow.
was a life-changing, very emotional event for me. It threw me into the deepest, darkest depression that I've ever been in. Well, no, I take that back. My dad's death was the deepest, darkest depression I've ever been in. But when my daughter left for college, it was as if I was grieving my loss all over again. I felt that same grief as when my dad died. Yeah. So I was extremely close to her, and my day-to-day activities revolved around her. She was probably my best friend at the time, and I wanted her to fly. Obviously, every mom wants their child to fly, but whenever she left, it was extremely difficult for me. And I remember going to my therapist and saying, I don't understand why I feel this way. I don't think everybody else feels this way. I think that I'm feeling this a little bit deeper than what I'm supposed to be feeling this. And we talked about it, and the word empath came up. Right. And I was like, I can't be an empath. Have you seen my personality? I mean, I'm very no filter in your face. And I was
right. That's why I love you.
I be an empath. And, and he said, well, there's two halves to every whole, and no matter how you slice it. So it might be very thin, your empath, but there's two halves to every whole, and it's what balances you out. So learning that and accepting that kind of helped me, put me on the right path. And then I started with this TikTok. I mean, I already had it at the time. I think I started right before she went to college. But reconnecting with people and finding this fabulous group of followers who actually were interested in hearing what I had to say. And they're friends. They're not followers. So I made, now 480,000 friends that I didn't have before. So when I come home at night, instead of being alone like I would be and thought I would be with her being gone, all I have to do is open up my computer or my laptop or whatever and reconnect with these people on there who are super happy to hear from me, which is everything.
Yeah. You and I could do therapy on what you just said for like 5 sessions. Even you're starting off, and thank you for that. It's so powerful. And you are a lawyer, Lori, on TikTok. And I know there's a lot of negativity about social media, but I love what you just said. It allowed you to get the validation that you have something to say, you are worthy, that you are a mom, and you're an attorney, and you're somebody who stands for social justice.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So I know you might not say this. I'm going to throw this out to everybody. You have, because of your platform, you have helped expose what's happening in the hospitals in South Carolina, people who are being mistreated, people who are in very dirty, non-sanitary conditions.
That was probably my biggest video. Yep.
Yeah. And that was huge. I've watched you collect money so that people who are financially struggling can have Christmas last year. Like you're not just doing it. And again, people say like, you just want attention. Can I just tell y'all to stop saying that to people? Attention is an emotional need that God implanted inside of you from conception. We all need attention. It's just some of us need it in different ways, but you're using the attention you're receiving in such a powerful way.
Well, thank you. It's a way, you give back by doing this podcast or in many other ways, Kim. I've seen all the ways that you give back, and it's so impressive and has been a pleasure to sit back and watch you. But when I was doing the TikTok, I thought, people thought, oh, she's doing it for marketing, or she's trying to build up her legal practice. And I caught a lot of grief from that. I hid it from my fellow lawyers. I hid it from my friends until I couldn't. There was one video that went kind of a little bit viral, and from that point on, it was no longer a secret. I had to out it. Yeah. But to show that it was important for me to show that, and to use this for something good, and to show that this wasn't about money. I have a law practice. I'm not a TikTok lawyer. I'm a lawyer who's on TikTok.
There you go.
The money that comes from it, and I do make some money. It's not a lot. People think you make a ton of money off of doing it, but you don't. So I took every bit of money I had saved. I never took the money out of the TikTok account. You actually physically have to go in there and take it. So I left all of that in there. And then I decided, hey, I told my fathers, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do with the money that you made me. I'm going to adopt a family, and I'm going to provide Christmas for them.
Right.
And so I did the Families Helping Families. I asked for a family of 4. They sent me 2 families of 4 and an elderly person. I think I asked for a family of 4 and an elderly person. They sent me 2 families of 4. So now I have 9 people instead of 5. And my budget, because I don't make that much on TikTok, and I didn't mind putting my own money in it, but I just said to my friends, on TikTok, do you want to help? Wow. If you want to help, then here's my Venmo, just Venmo me. I promise you every dime of it will go to these families. And I had so much money and so much shopping to do. And I had people offering to help me shop. I had people offering to help me wrap.
Wow.
We ended up with so much money that I pulled in another family, a mom and a disabled son or special needs child. And then I still had money left over that I was going to give in gift cards. And so I called the people at Families Helping Families, and I said, I can't shop anymore. I literally hate shopping. So can you use this money to get another family? I know you still have people. It's short notice, but I have extra money. So we ended up providing Christmas probably to at least 13 or 14 people.
That's beautiful. Thank you for using it for what you're doing. And again, like, this is your heart. This reminds me of your dad, because, your dad used to take us when we were in college out to eat and pay for our food and all the things, right? And so you and I are definitely daddy's girls.
Right.
So I'm going to use that. I'm going to segue into the Murdaugh trial, because here's the thing. I'm from South Carolina.
Yep.
And my dad's a lawyer. And honestly, because he's an attorney, I'm probably not in prison. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I don't like him. That's probably true.
Yeah, it really is true. Like I had alcoholic, had some problems, had some legal difficulties, and there's privilege. There's privilege that I received. So watching the Alex Murdaugh trial, all being about Hampton County, all about, solicitors, all that. First of all, I was a probation parole officer out of college. So the whole Susan Smith double homicide thing, a part of that, like all this stuff. And then to see this, I don't know, 25 years later, whatever it is, the next double homicide that's in, low country of South Carolina. And to know that you are a part of, you have an inside viewpoint. So just whatever just jump in there and tell me, what the hell? How did we get here? How did this happen?
I really don't know. And, I was on CourtTv again last night. It's like the case that won't go away. I mean, there's so much interest in it. I still see people posting new videos about it. I don't think there's been anything new, so I don't post anything new about it unless something comes up. The jurors doing an interview was very interesting to me, but I'm an offense attorney. And so people ask me questions. And my biggest thing is that people have prejudged Alex Murdaugh since the very beginning.
Right.
And I've said, I'm not Nancy Grace. Okay. I'm not going to come on there and give you my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not these the podcasters, Mandy Matney and Sparrow, turned from journalism to something completely different. I'm not going to tell you what I think. I'm going to let you listen to the evidence, and then you tell me what you think. And at the end of the trial, I'll tell you how I feel about it. But I haven't heard the evidence. And this is about justice. This is about somebody getting a fair trial. And we're in South Carolina. It's a small state. It's a small town. How do you get that fair trial when there's so much publicity around it? Look at OJ. Look at Susan, whatever.
Susan Smith, Anthony, when that happened. Yeah.
Susan Anthony. Or what is it? Anyway, from Florida.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Scott Peterson, look at all of them. They don't get fair trials because of the media that surrounds this case. So I will never be the one to give you my opinion. You go ahead and do what you do. So now that it's over, I tell people, here's my opinion, just of the trial, an analysis of the trial. Was Alex Murdaugh there? Absolutely. He was there. I think
he was there the night his wife and son got murdered.
Yes, he was there on the scene. I mean, at least within minutes, if not there at the same time. And I probably think that the state proved that he was there. But the state chose to try this case on he is the person who killed his wife and child. And so to do that, you actually have to put a weapon in his hands, prove he fired it.
Yeah.
So there are other ways that they could have gotten this. They could have said, well, maybe there were 3 people there. Either way, he's hand of one, hand of all. That's a theory in South Carolina. If you're there when it happens, you're guilty of it too.
Right.
You could have, the state could have gone in and gone with that theory. And they probably would have won me over with that theory. But I don't think that they proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Alex Murdaugh is the one who shot and killed his wife and child. There's nobody testifying that says there were any problems between them. I don't buy the state's motive of financial issues. You might buy yourself 3 weeks of time, and that's enough to kill your wife and child. I don't think that that's enough. I don't buy that any more than I buy that Alex Murdaugh was scared of the police, and so that's why he lied.
Right,
but you do have this big lie that you have to explain, and I just don't think he can do it. I think there's a part of this story that we will never know.
Right.
I think that his brother even gave an interview and said he knows more than he's saying, and absolutely he knows more than he's saying.
Right.
But that's where we are here in South Carolina. We've got this huge murder trial. We've got national spotlight on Walterboro, South Carolina, of all places.
Yeah.
Could have picked a nicer spot. I mean, not Walterboro, but I mean, we had beautiful beaches. And
let's go to Charleston.
Gorgeous.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
So gorgeous.
Right.
But it just was. It's been an interesting ride. I mean, I rode up there one night to do CourtTv. I was there for the 8:00 hour, and so at 7:00 they're all doing the news. So everybody was out there. I mean, mass media.
Right.
And then with 15 minutes gone, they're all just dispersed because their bits were over for the news.
Wow.
So it was an interesting show to watch.
Right.
But I never thought that little podunk South Carolina town would be this national spotlight OJ type trial.
Well, and I heard that it was so chaotic. The only thing it needed was a Ferris wheel.
It was insane. And I went down there one day.
Right.
And I went in the courtroom. I have a friend, one of my friends represents Curtis Smith. So she wasn't going to the trial that day. And I just walked in and said, I'm here on behalf of my friend who represents Curtis Smith. I'm here to sit in on the trial on her behalf.
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm sorry, who? I basically had to lie, cheat, and steal my way in there. I mean, I walked past, she looks at me and she goes, this is security at the front. She goes, you're going to need to go sit over there. I'll deal with you in just a minute. So I go and I sit over there. And at the same time, I had another friend lawyer who was in there come and speak to me. Joe McCullough, who was in the trial, came up and spoke to me. John Metters, who gave that final closing argument, the rebuttal close. He came up, gave me a hug. I think she saw all of that and said, here's your pass. And let me in based on that.
Right.
So, I mean, I went in there on a wing and a prayer. And but it was just like when you walk in the courtroom, the tension in that courtroom was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Wow.
And then Alex Murdaugh, and I've never met him. I dealt with people in his firm, but he stood up and on the break when we went to go to lunch, he's the tallest person in the room. He is a very imposing figure. So there were a lot of cool things to see about actually being in there and being
I bet.
But people were coming from Florida, Hawaii, I mean, all these states just and sat outside at 3:00 in the morning to get in. I mean, crazy.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. Like, what was the draw? Okay, and here's my, because obviously I have the psychological background. So I'm thinking it's because it's a family of power. Mm-hmm. It's a Caucasian family. Correct. It's a family of generations of being solicitor, of being people who seemed like things were handed to them, right? Not completely true. I know they worked on some level for what they had, and then there were other issues. But is that the deal, that you've got someone who we are prescribed in America, you will have a good life, socioeconomically sound, if you are Caucasian, if you, right? Like there's this prescription being passed that this means everything's okay. And then to see that family who has everything that we think will make everything okay blow up, is that part of the draw?
Absolutely. I mean, I think people, it's not only part of the draw, it is, what's the word I'm looking for? It was the feeding on that. It was, and it doesn't come from a good place. It was enjoying watching somebody fall from grace.
Fall from grace. Yeah.
I mean, this family, yes, they had all of the things that they ever could need. This hunting property, Moselle, what a beautiful property. And coming from, like, coming from a small town where there are a lot of hunters. And I mean, I can imagine some of my friends growing up on a place like that. They had dove hunting, they had deer hunting, they had the shed, they had an airplane.
Yeah. They had a little airplane, a little strip, right? For the airplane to come in.
For their drugs.
Yeah.
That's a different story. But I do think that the draw was definitely this fall from grace of this powerful family. But also I think it was, you have all of these people that he took advantage of. And, well, two things. You have all these people he took advantage of, all of these clients who were in such a lesser financial, socioeconomic position than him.
Right.
And he took his position and he took from them. He took from the poor and the needy and the hurt and the damage. And he used that for himself to make him bigger. So I think that was part of it. And then I think that it's a lawyer fall. It's a lawyer fall from grace, and people don't like us very much sometimes.
Yeah, and this is my thing. Like whenever, especially when I have a patient that's an attorney, and I will tell them from the get-go, "Oh, I love attorneys," and they're like, "No one says that." I'm like, "But why?" Like maybe it's, again, maybe because I'm an LK. Like I have grown up watching my dad represent people who then couldn't pay, so they came and cut our grass.
Yeah.
Right. Like I know your dad's was very similar. Like that's my understanding. The lawyers I knew, the police officer I knew growing up, right? Because I was raised in the legal community, were just good people. If there was some other stuff behind the scenes, I didn't know about it. They were just all good people.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I remember Daddy talking about getting eggs. He would be paid in eggs for his investments. And that reminded me of the juror that, people made fun of that juror for her saying, are you aware of what I'm talking about?
No, please tell.
On the final day of this trial, one of the jurors had been having conversations with people. I think it was SLED agents, but I'm not positive about that. But she made some comments publicly about her feelings about this case and about his guilt. And they had to excuse her on the last day. Yeah. And they brought her out and they said, "Is there anything that you need from the jury room before we let you go?" And she said, "Well, my purse is in there." And one of the jurors brought us eggs. So I'd like to get my eggs. So apparently one juror has a chicken and brought everybody a dozen eggs. And she said, "I want to get my eggs." And everybody was like, her eggs. And I'm like, y'all don't know what it's like. These are fresh farm eggs. Yeah. No, I would absolutely go back to those eggs. So yes, if somebody wanted to pay me in eggs, absolutely. I need eggs for the rest of my life. Sure.
Right, sure. And the price of eggs right now. Yes, I'm getting my eggs. Right.
They're farm eggs too. There's a difference in the taste. It. So
that's right. That's exactly right.
I wanted to say one more thing too, that I think that really is what made this so attractive to other people was that there were 5 different deaths surrounding this family. That's right. That should not be forgotten there. And I don't, whether they had anything to do with the other ones or not, they're just all very suspicious deaths that happened with this family. So
do you see a trial for Stephen Smith's death and for Gloria, the housekeeper's death? Do you think there's a possibility of a trial happening for that?
So when Gloria Satterfield died, the only 2 people that were there were Paul and Maggie. And there was statements in the Netflix special from his girlfriend that basically said Paul absolutely loved Gloria Satterfield. Gloria Satterfield was the mom he never had.
Right.
It destroyed him when she died. So I don't think, we can talk about Paul being a bad person all we want to, but I don't think he had anything to do with her death. That leaves Maggie. So if we believe Maggie,
that's a good point.
Down the stairs, then maybe. But so even Gloria Satterfield's attorney does not believe that was suspicious. So I don't think that we'll see anything come out of Gloria Satterfield's death.
Okay.
I am hoping and praying that we find some kind of closure for Stephen Smith's mom and for that case. Now, whether that means that it's the Murdaugh family or not, it might not be. That's again, this is another way where our justice system starts with a presumption of innocence. Yeah. And the first thing that, when Alec was getting in the van after he was convicted, somebody yelled at him, "Buster's next." And I'm very careful about saying, like, there's nothing that ties Buster to this scene other than rumors and people saying, "I heard he was with him. I heard he did this. I heard." Right. It's all hearsay, gossip, rumor, no physical evidence to tie him to it. Sure. They did reopen the case based on something that they found at Moselle. My understanding, I'm not absolutely sure about this, but my understanding of it was that the only physical piece of evidence found on Stephen Smith was a blue chip of paint. And they found something on Moselle that could have matched that chip of paint. And so whether it did or not, I don't know, but that was my understanding at the time.
That seems really flimsy, though.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and this is part of it, especially me growing up in the South and being gay, even though I was so gay, I was so closeted, I didn't know I was closeted, a lot of it.
Yeah.
But it is true to be in the South and be in that small of a town and have Stephen Smith, who had the courage to be openly gay. And all it takes, knowing how much homophobia, how rampant it is everywhere, particularly in a small town, very much can see that even if Buster and Stephen made eye contact, how people will respond to that. Like, it'd be so easy for the rumors to get started. It's just too easy because the homophobia is so prevalent.
Absolutely. And, this is the problem with our small towns even. Like, you can get to places like Columbia and it's a little bit better. It's still there, but it's a little bit better. But in the small towns, you've got those old school, old families.
Yeah.
Don't change your ways, like my mama.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
She doesn't, she's older and she doesn't get it. And she doesn't, I don't think she ever will. So these, people grow up in those small towns like you and you went back, but I got the hell out of there.
Right. Yeah.
I still love my small town. I still love the people from there, but that was not a place that I could grow up in or live my life and raise my children in. Yeah. So the small-mindedness of it was not something I wanted to be a part of, but it's still there. So the views on homosexuality and all of the LGBTQ, good Lord, if there was anything more than homosexuality, they'd probably flip their lid. A trans person walking around town, good Lord. I don't know. I don't know what they do. And actually, there is one trans person from King Street, and she moved from King Street and doesn't live there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and my wife and I intentionally moved to Davidson, North Carolina because
I know you're in Davidson.
Oh yeah, we live in Davidson now on purpose because this is a intellectual, advanced, love everybody. Right. Like everywhere you go, you'll see Black Lives Matter. You'll see signs. You'll see, people standing for Ukraine. And so we moved here on purpose so that we would not get physically harmed or emotionally attacked.
Which is so sad that you have to actually even contemplate that. Yeah. I don't have to worry about where I move.
Right. Sure. Sure.
Yeah. That's it's a sad situation and it's getting worse.
Oh, it is getting worse. Like my anger this week has been off the charts and it needs to be, right? Like I'm so angry that all the cases right now being revealed of sexual abuse within the church have been covered up. Right. And so are we focusing on drag queens because we're trying to cover up what's actually happening in the church? Right? Over 700 cases have been revealed recently of sexual abuse has been covered up. Is that why all of a sudden we're banning books and talking about drag queens?
I have no idea what these people think that would harm them. Why is it? I hope it doesn't pass Supreme Court muster, but we have a Supreme Court that was put into place by one of the top dogs of this new movement. Right. Our world is something that I don't recognize anymore, where we are just filled with hate. And I there was one video that I did. I don't even remember what the initial video was, but I think it was talking about the policy down in Florida where it was the don't ask. What would they call it? The don't talk law, whatever. What was the law called? You know what I mean?
Like don't ask, don't tell kind of mentality.
Well, it was something about the schools that they were not to discuss sexuality, with kids that were of a certain age or something. And I did a video about that, and somebody said, I have no problem with homosexuality. Just don't put it in my face. Just don't be doing it in public.
Yeah.
And so I remember doing the video back that said, "Oh yeah, God forbid." People are out there holding hands and loving each other.
Yeah.
I mean, and being kind to one another.
Right.
God forbid that happen, because what if the heteros were to do that? Then we'd all be in a whole mess.
That's right.
Because the heteros definitely are not getting there right now. So if everybody goes around like the LGBTQ community and showing their affection and showing their love, we'd really be in a hot mess then, wouldn't we? Kind of in jest. And some people took me seriously and were like, "Are you kidding?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am."
Right, I am. Well, and that when you did that, I reached out to you and just thanked you, right? Yeah. Because the irony is that if a heterosexual person speaks out about it, someone is more likely to hear you than me, right? Because for every reason. And so I appreciate you being able to do that. And again, even when you're talking about the Murdaugh trial, I hear your fairness in it. I hear your objectivity in it. Like you're looking at it accurately, but you're also not that person that's going to get off on that this is the way it is, and I'm not refusal to look at it differently. And you do that in all aspects of your life, and I think that's amazing.
Well, thank you. I cannot begin to be the person to judge somebody. And somebody will say, "Well, what about the death penalty?" Well, that's just state sanctioned murder. And do I want to be the one to pull the trigger? No, I'm not going to. God judges.
Yeah.
That's God's job. That's not my job. Now, if I need to take somebody out of society and put them in a cell somewhere, then I can do that. I feel comfortable doing that. But it's not my job to take somebody's life.
No.
That's why, probably shouldn't say this on air, but I don't own a weapon. I've never fired one.
Right.
If somebody comes in and that's what they need and feel that they need to do, I don't know that I could take a life even in my own defense.
Yeah.
I'm working on that, by the way. I'm working on it. The more followers I get, the more I'm working on that.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But it's just, I try to be objective. I try to be fair. Somebody asked me, in one of the podcasts I did about marketing, how do you get this many followers? How did you get to where you are? The way that I did get here is because you hear my true voice. You're not going to hear. Right. I'm not advertising. I'm not looking for clients on there. If they come to me, then great. But I'm not looking for clients on there. How did I market myself on TikTok? I don't market myself on TikTok.
Right. That's right. You're just authentic. You're just authentic, right? That's just the way it is. Yeah.
I try.
Yeah.
I don't have a filter. So a lot of times I wish I did. But I did learn to stay away from politics because that is a very polarizing subject. And I try to stay away from that because people don't agree with me. And these days there is no in between. Yeah. You cannot ride the fence. You cannot be a moderate. You are either for or against
people.
Either party. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Either you're for people or you're against people. Right.
True.
It's so interesting. Yeah. How do you think, from you being in the courtroom and seeing all this and talking about the jurors and go, like, what is the psychological effect on jurors who have had this much time consumption? And even you have I know you're trying to get back in the office and get your life normal again. This is very time consuming for everyone. What happens to people's psychological?
Well, I think that's a better question for you than
you're right.
I can tell you that I watched this trial every single day. I had it on my computer. I've got a TV up there on the wall. I had it on my phone wherever I was. I remember walking into the courtroom and seeing. We were going into the federal courtroom. A state judge was standing in front of me, and she said, "I'm surprised that so many people are here and not home watching the trial." And I showed her I had my AirPods in my hand because even in the courtroom, as soon as 9:30 starts, they're going in the ear so I can watch until it's my turn.
Right.
So we lived it, breathed it, went along with this jury for 6 weeks. I watched every minute of that trial, and at the end of it is hard. It is a letdown. It's a relief, but it's also a letdown. And for the people who actually had to be there every day, the lawyers, let's talk about the lawyers.
Yeah.
Being in trial one day is exhausting. Being there and having people don't realize that, well, maybe they do, but when you're exercising, for instance, okay, your body gets tired.
Right.
But when you're working all day and you're constantly having to be on your toes for the next objection, for the next question, whatever it is, your brain gets tired.
Right.
So those lawyers had to be completely exhausted by the time each day was over, and then just on the verge of collapse by the end of it. It was an incredibly long trial, the longest in South Carolina history, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So then you have 12 jurors, or more than that. I think we ended up finally with one alternate, so it would have been 13 people who actually were there for the whole time. And those people were taken away from their jobs, from their families, from being able to contact, from being able to go on social media and do all of the things that we normally do. So the withdrawal from that during the trial, and then the letdown, okay, hey, now I'm not, out there anymore.
Right.
And I did hear that Joan McCullough, the lady with the eggs, by the way, hired, this is the rumor I heard, but I heard she hired Joan McCullough to represent her because she was being harassed by the media.
Wow.
Because everybody wants to talk to them. And it took an emotional toll on everybody. And then, think about even just the city of Walterboro. They were the center of attention, and then poof, everybody's gone. It's almost like a death. And you realize that when Daddy died, I remember that everybody was there. I mean, he was sick. Everybody was coming to visit. When he died, they swooped in and they took care of us during that period from death to funeral. And then when the funeral was over, everybody was gone. And I remember thinking, my world just collapsed and stopped. And I was left sitting there with my world, just in literally frozen. And I remember thinking, but the world is still going on. How are y'all still going on? Do y'all not remember where we were yesterday? It's hard to move on from something like that. And that has to, not on the same level, obviously, but there has to be a little bit of that going on with this trial.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And it is, there's grief. And there is, in our country anyway, when someone dies, you get 2 weeks to grieve and then move on, even though your heart will never be the same, right?
Right.
And so, but even these jurors and all this town and everybody, like the idea of I'm hoping that therapists in the area are going to offer something to these people because there's a post reaction that will now happen, right? Just the idea of where they've been within their brain and the trauma that they now have.
Think about Judge Newman too, who did such a good job in this trial. But think about Judge Newman, who lost his son about 2 weeks before the trial started.
Wow. Yeah.
40 years old.
How?
He was 40 years old, and my understanding is it was a pulmonary embolism.
Oh, wow.
And
that is so shocking. Yeah.
It was shocking and sudden, and he has to pull himself together within a week and a half and go straight into a 6-week trial.
That's about death of a son, too.
Yes. And so I think that when you listen to him in that little bit he did during sentencing, you can hear that anger come out because he lost his son. And here's a man standing in front of him who is alleged to have taken the life of his son.
Right. Absolutely.
So to not value your child's life and having Judge Newman had just lost his son.
Right.
I'm sure there were some psychological issues at play there too.
Yeah, I think that's another excellent point. Just I wonder, is this a story of addiction? I understand the power and the dynasty and, generation of lawyers, but just knowing, and I don't know at what point Alex Murdaugh's addiction started. I do know from my own personal experience, I did things I would have never done. I was so far removed from any level of rational being, or hadn't been in my prefrontal cortex, my adult brain in so long. The things I did were very irrational. Was it to this level? Praise God, no. But is this that we get here from a story of addiction? And I know part of the story of addiction is his son, Paul, who I believe he was an alcoholic. It was his coping mechanism, because there's a death of him having, boating under influence, BUI, a death of Mallory.
Right.
And, I don't ever want her forgotten about in this, or her family.
Correct. Her family. And, so first of all, let me say that Alex Murdaugh said that he had knee surgery back when he was either in college or right after college, and that's when his addiction began.
Oh, wow. I didn't know this. Okay.
Yeah, he got pain pills for that. I think that's one of the things that he testified to. So he was on these opioids for a while. Now, was he taking $60,000 worth of opioids a week?
You can't sustain that. You can't sustain that for too long. No. I don't know how. Yeah.
And this would have been for years with the amount of money that was being swapping hands, and the fact that nobody in his firm recognized it. And, there was a female attorney here in town recently that I understood had a problem with alcohol, found out later that she had a problem with alcohol. And I have seen this girl so many times in trial and so many times in the courtroom. I had no clue, none, totally functioning alcoholic. And so I wonder if he was that high functioning on these pills that the people around him didn't notice.
Sure.
There were obviously was, evidence from his text messages that Maggie knew, and that there definitely was at least drugs present, whether he was taking them or not. At least they were present. Right. So again, I still go back to thinking that this is money laundering, a drug dealing type situation versus and obviously a very bad drug dealer. He was a terrible drug dealer because he would have been making money instead of losing it. Right. But I still go back to that. I don't know how much addiction played a part in it. It obviously played some role in it, but just a dealing situation. Sure. A drug dealing.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's some level of enabling because, again, like his, the Murdaugh name is part of the name of the law firm. This is generations of solicitors, and that people don't say things. Because one, we don't teach people to have a voice in general, but also don't know to say something about someone's addiction. Don't know it's okay to step in and check on somebody and do an intervention because there's probably fear that they would be fired, fear that they somehow would pay a price for trying to point out if they saw it.
So he testified that he had been to rehab 3 times.
Wow.
And that he had detoxed at home alone more times than that.
Right.
So I know that, if that's true, which we all know that you can't believe everything he said.
Sure.
But if that's true, Maggie and Paul both knew of his issues with drugs and tried to help. But somebody else said that same thing to me about what you said with doing the things that you thought you would have never done, that you were completely irrational.
Yeah.
I don't buy that you can be that irrational that you kill your child.
There's got to be another diagnosis, right? Something else has to be there, right? How do you get that irrational? And so I don't know. I'm sure there's been a lot of conversation about psychopath versus sociopath, narcissism. I know is coming up, but I don't even know from listening to him and all that if I can tell you exactly what I would diagnose him with.
I know, isn't it hard?
Yeah, and most people I get within 5 minutes. I got you. I got it right. I'm not sure what it is with him.
So my theory of this case, and it's not a popular, in some circles it's popular, but I still believe that because everybody who testified in this case testified that he loved his wife, and they were, even the groundskeeper that came to, not CB Rowe that did the fields, but the one who came to water the dogs and change and clean the kennels out, said that when he saw the two of them together, they were lovey-dovey. He and Maggie were lovey-dovey. Yeah. And everybody said that Paul was the apple of his eye, that he just loved Paul. So I still believe that this goes back to his drug dealing. I think that he was dealing with the cowboy gang in Walterboro. I believe that he ended up owing somebody money. I believe that he was probably in his house doing exactly what he said he was, and then goes down to the kennels because he maybe gets a call. Right. Need to meet it down at the kennels. So he goes down to the kennels or something. I still have this, watched a lot of TV. I watched that the show with Jason Bateman on oh God, I'm blanking on the name of it.
The Ozark thing?
Ozark, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think they were and I was on CourtTv last night, and I was putting this theory out there again. And Eric Bland, who is part of that podcast that is very pro prosecution, said, "Do you really think that the cartel is going to not bring their own guns?" I'm like, look, they didn't bring their own guns here.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. Good for you.
Can you tell me that they absolutely bring their guns every time?
Right.
What I can tell you as a criminal defense attorney, and Eric Bland is not, by the way, a criminal defense attorney.
Yes.
So every time I have done a criminal federal case where there's these huge conspiracy cases, they trace it up the ladder. If you ever watch The Wire, it's the greatest show to tell you how these conspiracy cases work, because they take the person on the very bottom, the street dealer, and they wiretap his phone, and they get to the next person he's buying from, and then they tap that guy, and they go up the chain.
Right.
You're going to find a Hispanic cartel connection every time, because we don't produce cocaine in this country.
Right.
We don't do it. So it's coming in from outside of the country.
Right.
And I think he had something to do with that, which is why he had the landing strip at his house. There's so much evidence. The person that he got Moselle from for $15, that's 1,700 acres of land for $15. And that guy was a known drug smuggler.
Right.
So all of this, I believe, came back to selling and that mentality and the criminal mentality of selling drugs. And then when you talk about diagnosing him with sociopath versus psychopath, you have to look at the fact that he probably knew what was happening, or at least could recover pretty damn quick to get and do the things that he did afterwards. So you have to look at whether, not whether he pulled the trigger, but how he reacted to the trigger being pulled.
There you go.
And that's where you can get your diagnosis for him.
Yeah, that's so smart. Yeah, and I hear that. And just for people to know, like, someone who is a psychopath, that there's a belief that there's a different brain functionality. They do not feel empathy. They care if they get hurt. They don't care if someone else gets hurt. They don't really believe in right and wrong. And a sociopath had some understanding of right and wrong. Their definition is different than ours. So most people have kind of combined those, but they are more separate now that there's been a clearer diagnosis. And so there is something that looks like that Alex Murdaugh had some type of remorse for this, but it's hard to tell, is he remorseful because he got caught versus is he remorseful because there's a loss of his children, particularly based on listening to the phone calls when he's in jail.
Which people now are saying are coded, and we're telling Buster to go and find the money. He kept telling him to go hunting down by the feeders or something. And so everybody thinks that that's where the guns are, the motor. And now Buster's complicit. The conspiracy theories are running wild. It just makes me crazy, the conspiracy theorists. But I agree with you. But I personally, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form in your profession. Sure. But I think there is a level of sociopath combined with narcissism that led to this. That family name and the importance of his family name that he has that has been ingrained into him for all of his life. You're a Murdaugh. You actually have to behave. You are, you're an icon in this town, and so that self-importance, narcissism, along with the sociopath, combined for this, the perfect storm that Creighton Waters talked about.
I agree with that, and I think that is the narcissism with the sociopath. Onset of that, like the grandiosity of the last name, of walk around that town, do whatever you want to do, watching how Paul reacted after the boating accident. Now, granted, I understand that I am limited in what I see. When I was a probation officer, I was a part of one case in particular that made the news, and what the news said and what I knew what was really going on behind the scenes, because I was there, two different things. So I understand things get reported the way they get reported. So, but there is something particularly, especially with watching Paul when he was intoxicated and how different he was. And like they called him Timmy.
Yeah.
Because
it was totally different personality.
Totally different personality. And watching his hands movements were different. Like all that is I do think that's part of the fascination, that people had with this. But there's to not step away from the tragedy of this, of how many people are not here. And I can imagine being Buster.
I know, losing your whole family.
Your whole family.
You don't have empathy for that kid. And most people that I've seen don't have empathy for him. What they have is, he's part of it.
Yeah.
Where was he? What was his alibi? I'm like, he has a solid alibi. He didn't have anything to do with it.
Right. Well, and I think people need to think about, we're so upset that Alex Murdaugh didn't have any empathy, right? We're so upset with him, and yet we're not having empathy towards other people in this. And I mean, Buster, like, my understanding is that Buster can't go anywhere and can't do anything without being at a minimum verbally attacked at this point.
Absolutely. And here's the level of my empathy. I posted the picture of him with his mugshot. I did a video with his mugshot at SCDC. And all I can think about was how hard this must be from this man to go from being in a courtroom in a nice suit to defending your life and asking, 12 jurors to find you not guilty, going from that in 24 hours to having a shaved head, completely demoralized, wearing a jumpsuit in a prison system where you have to actually, listen to every word that everybody else says and get acclimated to prison, and also completely being isolated for 23 hours a day. Yeah. That is a hard.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, I do have empathy for that.
Yeah, sure.
I do. I mean, but the grandiose thing and the thing about that family name, one of the things I want to point out too is that Mallory Beach's mom in this boating accident. Mallory Beach's mom stated in that Netflix special that she was standing down there at the scene of the boating accident. There was yellow tape everywhere. You couldn't get through. They wouldn't let her through. Right. She said, I just wanted to see it. I wanted to see where my baby went missing. And they wouldn't let her through. And then she said, and I was standing there and I watched Alex Murdaugh pull up with Maggie in the car, and they just rode right through that yellow tape.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Horrible.
That grandiosity there in itself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A perfect example of it.
Yeah.
And nobody called this mom and told her. Nobody from law enforcement called her and told her child was missing.
That's right. Well, let's talk about law enforcement real quick. I know we're coming a little bit closer in, but knowing, my understanding is SLED did a lot to get this to go in a different direction. I've heard, videos, and again, I understand as being a kid that's, in South Carolina, that's with a lawyer, that there is a good old boy system. There's evidence of them saying, do you know who this family is when they're on the scene?
Yeah.
Right. And there's guns being left in the house, like all this stuff. So can you speak into that?
It's hard for me because I still have to deal with SLED.
Okay, well,
but no, I don't mind. Listen,
right.
I've already spoken. I think that SLED made some major mistakes in this case. I think that they have to actually really be looked at, and they need to be investigated.
Yeah.
And I know Judge Newman said, and to malign law enforcement in his, sentencing.
Yeah.
I love Judge Newman. He's from King Street, my hometown.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's
no wonder we love him.
He got the Lifetime Achievement Award in King Street night before last. So
that's amazing.
It was, but and he's very good. But SLED did not do a good job in this case. They had John Marvin walking around when they searched the house. They didn't empty the house to do the search. They did interrogations in the vehicle. They left brain matter and bone fragments and buckshot all in the feed room. They had Agent Owens on the stand, and Agent Owens on the stand admitted to not only lying to Alec about the things that he had found and the evidence against him, but he used that same evidence when he testified in front of the grand jury. So he lied to the grand jury.
Wow.
That man will never testify again.
Yeah.
It's just, So there's some harsh realities that need to be faced at SLED right now. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you being an attorney in South Carolina, knowing that people were talking about South Carolina judicial system as a whole was also on trial.
Yeah.
Like, does it feel that way to you? Do you feel like that there's a microscope on all of y'all?
You would be amazed at the number of clients, not mine, I've just heard stories from friends, but clients, personal injury clients who've crawled out of the woodwork and asked to see their paperwork again. And then I have a good friend of mine who's on the ethics. He's a professor of ethics at the university. And he was talking about amending the rules so that defense attorneys or adjusters would have to send a copy of the check to the client when we settled their case so that they would know the check has been sent.
Right.
And they wanted to amend the rules. And I said, let me ask you, Michael, how many attorneys steal money from their clients? What's the percentage? And he said, it's less than 1%. Yeah. And I was like, so we're going to amend the rule just because this high profile case of Alex Murdaugh being a complete jackass and doing all of the things that he has done to his clients. We're going to amend a rule that I have to now let an attorney have a conversation with my client who is represented. They're not supposed to have conversations with my client. That's a rule.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to bend that rule just because Alex Murdaugh came in. So we felt the heat. We've absolutely felt the heat.
Sure. Well, I just want you to know I have incredible respect for you particularly, but for attorneys and people who are trying to do the best that they can. And just knowing that this has done something to so many people psychologically. And also just, I know a lot of us follow stuff like this. Like I watch Law and Order Special Victims Unit and Criminal Minds over and over and over again because I want to feel safe. Right?
Because they catch the bad guy.
Yes, the perp gets jail time. I want to feel safe. And I think there's a little element of that. That's for people, part of the obsession with it. And so what is your plan to take care of yourself? Because you've given so much to this and so much to people. How do you, now that the trial's over, and this may be, you might have saved the best podcast for last. This might be your last one about the Murdaughs. Right. But like, how do you take care of yourself? Right. How do you take care of yourself now?
Well, I have some great moderators on my TikTok account who gave me a spa day, not a spa.
Oh, nice.
They treated me to a spa day. They knew I was burning at both ends.
Yeah.
So I literally was in tears. I mean, it was such a nice gift. They do so much for me. And, even just these are regular people who give their time to come into my lives and moderate the lives.
Sure.
And they're giving me gifts. I should be paying them.
Yeah.
So that, and I just plan to throw myself back into my life slowly. I plan to sleep a little bit.
Yeah, sleep's good. Yeah,
sleep's good. I have been getting about 4 or 5 hours a night. Unfortunately, I'm still on the Murdaugh schedule, so I go to bed about 1 and get up about 7. But I think mainly what I'm going to do is move on to the next trial.
Yeah, yeah.
Just throw myself back into another one. It won't be anything like this. It'll never live up to what we've been through in the past couple of weeks.
Sure.
But I enjoyed it so much. And, I just want to tell it that when I close out my lives on TikTok, I always say, I end with a thank you, not just a poof, I'm out.
Right.
I say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys for being here, for listening to me and for hearing what I have to say and for letting me do something that I love. Because it's absolutely something that I love. And I loved every minute of that trial, as hard as it was to go through, as exhausting as it was. I love the law. I love justice. Yeah. I like fairness. I want to make sure that everything is fair. Right. And if I can help people not jump to the conclusion, if that platform is what, allows me to do that, then, it just was something I love. So I'm going to jump right back into the next one.
Yep. Well, that does not surprise me. I know you, and you're definitely your daddy's daughter, and I love you for that. And I love that I get to see him in you. Right. Thanks. So thank you for being a part of this. And as you in your TikToks, I just want to say to you, thank you. Like, I love your passion for law. I wanted to go to law school as well. We won't talk about what happened with that, but I still love law. I love you. I love what you stand for. And thank you for being a part of this today.
I appreciate you so much, Kim. And I believe that people end up in the field that, somebody says, why did you become a lawyer? And I said, well, I didn't, choose to become a lawyer. Right. The law chose me, and your profession and the place that you are has chosen you. And that's why you're successful. And that's why you have made a difference in so many people's lives. So as much as you say you love me, I love you right back. And I'm just so proud of where you are and how far you've come and the obstacles that it took to get you there.
Well, thank you. You speak so well, and I'm ready for you to move to Davidson, North Carolina, in my neighborhood, so we can spend every day together. And
love that.
We can do TikToks together all day long, and it would be amazing.
I'm afraid my children have a problem with me.
Damn it, those kids! They've always interfered with us. So
I know.
So if y'all want to keep up with her, please go to Lawyer Lori on the land of TikTok, tic-tac-toe, whatever it's called. I never can figure that thing out, but check her out there. Thank you, Lori, and to all the listeners. I know you heard a lot of things today that flipped your lid, but also believe you heard something that helped you reconnect to who you really are. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Please subscribe, rate, and share. You can find Kim on Facebook or Instagram at KBHoneycutt. To get an autographed copy of Kim's book, visit butyourmotherlovesyou.com. Remember, no matter what, treat yourself well today.